I began to think after a while that I'd like to see something of Africa before I settle down. I'd been told by all and sundry that wanderlust is what happens to a young lad. I had an interview at Barlow & Young, electrical contractors in Victoria, London. It seems they wanted an electrical supervisor to go out to West Africa right away. And so I spoke to the director, an ex-Navy man, who said to me, "Look here, I like the cut of your jib." Good heavens. And after selling my car, I spent my last evening with Sheila, packed my bags, and off I went. It was freezing cold at London Airport, and this was to be my very first flight. Accordingly, I acted very casual, as though I circumnavigated the globe every other day. I suspect that about half the passengers saw through my clever posturing. It was quite a severe winter, with ice and snow everywhere. Then the flight was delayed. They told us it was necessary to preheat the engines in the hangar. You have to remember that about a week prior to this, an aircraft crashed in Germany, killing most of the Manchester United soccer team. I wasn't nervous, I can tell you. Hell no. That knocking sound was only my knees giving vent to their feelings. They took us on a bus across to the other end of the airport and into the hangar, and there she stood, a Boeing Stratocruiser, developed from the airframe of the famous Boeing B-29 Superfortress. Very impressive. I had a first-class ticket, comfortable seat and excellent food and great service. A British airline, BOAC of course. I've flown many miles since on various airlines and have never seen the like again. As I walked away from the aircraft, it came to me that I was truly in a different world. The intense heat after the freezing cold in England was the first reminder. As I walked to the customs building, it seemed that I was almost tripping over these small lizards that were scampering everywhere, about 12 inches long, the female slightly shorter with a bright green head and a light brown body, and the male with an orange head and a scaly dark blue body. All the while running and abruptly changing direction. They would do what I called a couple of push-ups whenever they stopped. I learned that it was to increase their visible horizon. I stayed at the rest house along with two other passengers, a Scotsman and an Irishman, although they were 3 sheets to the wind during the flight from UK and did not recall any of it the following morning. They were frisky to say the least, and they were mortified as I told them that they had demanded a hug from the stewardess. These two were what was known in the vernacular as old coasters. They were on their way back from leave to the new wharf facility at Port Harcourt. When I was at a loose end, I was often asked over to their club dance and to meet some other guys. While we were together, they filled me in on much of what I should know as a newcomer to what was known as the white man's grave. Charming. They took me on a tour of Kano when we first got off the plane, including a visit to the huge market. It is said that a person can purchase anything there, and when we finished walking, I believed them. I remember thinking that I should like to buy a snake skin, and was shown to a man who sat in the middle of a circle of large baskets which contained live snakes, and he declared that he had just the right one for me. I almost jumped out of my skin as he plunged his hand into one of the baskets and slowly hauled out the biggest snake I've ever seen in my life. He then pried its jaws open and thrust his foot right down his throat and commenced to remove the head with a large carving knife, moving it around the neck in one neat movement, leaving the huge body thrashing on the ground. I slunk away, but not before leaving him the money for his trouble. Brave white hunter. Who said that? It was about this moment when I recalled a play that I'd heard on BBC Radio called Shopping, Lovely Shopping. I was up early next day, and for the first time I watched the majesty of an African sunrise. A DC-3 aircraft took me to Port Harcourt in eastern Nigeria, where I was to do the electrical installation at a new showroom for Lever Brothers, the soap company. The heat was intense, and as I have said, the humidity was very high and insects of all kinds plentiful. Africa meets a person as soon as the door of the aircraft is opened. It's rather like stepping into an oven, accompanied by that unique, earthy, sweet, sour smell that only Africa can produce. It was a great experience nevertheless, and being young and daft, as they say, I soldiered on.